Episode 2. The Question. I had been reviewing the trail again. Not the names, not the faces, but the full shape and size of the thing. Moloch had been a beginning, not an ending. A vector, not a source. He had trafficked in flects, yes, in obsession, in corruption, in things that bent men inward until they collapsed. But the flects had never been the point. They were only what surfaced. What mattered was how easily they had moved. Across worlds, across jurisdictions, through ports and registries that were supposed to notice such things, through systems designed to choke illicit trade before it could breathe. Someone had opened doors. Not carelessly, not loudly, but with paperwork, with permissions, with seals that carried real authority. The deeper I pushed, the clearer the pattern became. Disconnected incidents resolving into alignment, the same clearances recurring, the same quiet protections appearing where none should exist. It had a designation. Contract 13. Not a cult, but a cartel. A long-standing understanding between criminal interests and elements within imperial trade and enforcement structures. Recovered technologies were recovered and found their way into the Imperium, all of them traced back to the same source. A single warp-tainted world on the rimward edge of the Angelus subsector. A place that should have been sealed, quarantined, or erased from record. Instead, it had been mined. Devices lifted from its ruins, cogitators dredged from its dead hives, logic engines marinated in the warp's residue, artifacts that could not exist without contamination, because contamination was the environment that had shaped them. The flects came from the same world. Splinters of glass from its broken windows, saturated by centuries of exposure. Dangerous, addictive, corrupting, but secondary. A byproduct of the real prize. Contract 13 wasn't about vice. It was about salvage. And salvage, when laundered through enough seals and signatures, could pass for legitimate trade. If Moloch had been a believer, Contract 13 was infrastructure. And infrastructure does not stop unless it is dismantled. That was the moment I understood the cost of continuing. If we disengaged now, the machinery would keep turning. Quietly, safely, forever. Proceeding meant abandoning the protections of overt authority, no warrants carried openly, no seals displayed, no assumption that the Imperium would recognize us as its agents if we were exposed. But that was also the advantage. Our enemies were not outlaws lurking in the dark. They were functionaries, traders, officials, men and women, operating inside the Imperium's own structures. Sanction would only warn them. Authority would only give them something to hide behind. Firetide had already done the rest. As far as the subsector was concerned, we were dead. Lost in lucky space. A closed account. Special condition meant embracing that lie. No formal chain of command. No expectation of extraction. No guarantee that, if we failed, the Imperium would ever admit we had existed at all. It skirted the edge of heresy. It carried the risk of being judged rogue if we survived and were seen. But it was our only remaining option. The Arethusa vibrated like a tired animal in its sleep. Metal ticked. Bulkheads clicked with cooling strain. Somewhere deep in the hull, A pump cycled and wheezed as if it resented the work. The air tasted of recycled breath and machine oil, warmed by bodies and the constant heat bleed of systems that never truly rested. I didn't sleep often. Not properly. When rest became unavoidable, the chair managed it for me, dimming stimuli, regulating pulses, sustaining the machinery of survival. A controlled shutdown, not sleep. Sleep is a physical act, a body loosening its grip on the world, letting systems fall quiet. I no longer possessed the anatomy required for that kind of surrender. That night, something ignored the limitation. I felt the dream arrive like a pressure change, like a sealed door opening in a room I had forgotten existed. A ripple through the darkness, a pull, and then I was somewhere else. The glass lake. Cold air cut into my lungs. Lungs. I drew a breath and nearly broke the dream apart with the shock of it. I stood at the edge of a mountain lake under a slate sky. The water was smooth as a polished blade. Pines crowded the slopes. A glacier hung in the distance, blue-white and patient, like the frozen memory of something larger. The lake mirrored everything perfectly, including me. Not the chair, not the photoreceptors, not the humming restraints and the constant soft whine of life support. Me. As I had been. Young enough to be dangerous. Whole enough to feel it. Harlan Nail stood beside me, broad shoulders squared beneath a leather body glove. He looked like he belonged here, a man shaped by hard climates and harder work, able to sleep on stone and wake ready. He stared at my face. "You're wearing it," he said. His voice carried the plainness of a soldier. No reverence. No shock. Just the truth observed. "I thought it would help," I replied. "Help you," he said, "or help us?" The question landed heavier than it should have in a dream. I watched my reflection in the water. A handsome man. A clean face. The sort of face that made people underestimate what lived behind it. "I came because I need to ask you something," I said. Nail's jaw tightened. He looked down at the lake as if it held answers. "We've been through worse than this," he said. "We've had blood on our hands and ash in our mouths, and we've kept moving." "Yes," I said. "And that is why I'm asking." He turned his head slightly, eyes narrowing. "This is the question," he said. "Yes." "Special condition?" "Yes." The words had a ceremonial weight even here, even in dreams. The phrase meant we were no longer operating like an inquisitorial band in the open. It meant we were going to become ghosts. It meant inquisitorial authority with which to pressure people. It meant we would have to earn everything. The hard way. Nails stared at me for a long moment. "So if anyone wants off," he said, "they should do it now." "That's why I'm here." His mouth twitched, almost a smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Do you want me to say no?" he asked. "No," I said. "I want you to say yes with your eyes open." Nail exhaled, a cloud of breath. "Then yes," he said. "And don't ask it again." I nodded once. "I'm going to the others," I said. "Let me come," Nail said at once. I hesitated. Even in dreams, Nail's presence was an anchor. He was difficult to fool, difficult to bend, difficult to surprise. A man who could stand in the warp's crosswind and still keep his feet. Perhaps that was exactly why I wanted him there. "Yes," I said. The lake's surface shivered. The perfect mirror broke into shards, and we fell through. Kiss Tower. Lightning flashed outside a stone tower window, turning the room white for an instant, and then leaving it darker than before. A small cell, bare walls, candlelight that smelled of tallow and old smoke. A lullaby threaded the air, soft and steady, sung in a language that felt older than this world. Patience Kais sat between two small beds, her back straight, her hair loose, her voice gentle in a way she almost never allowed herself in waking life. 2 girls slept in the beds, 10 years old. Faces turned towards her voice as if it was gravity. A dream. A private one. Kiss saw us and her entire body went sharp. 2 silver kinablades pulled themselves free from her hairpins and circled into the candlelight, humming with restrained violence. "Don't," I said softly. I brushed the blades aside with careful mental pressure. Even here, even in sleep, weapons did what weapons were made to do. I had no desire to be cut open in someone else's memory. Kiss rose slowly, eyes bright and furious. "What are you doing here?" she hissed. Nail stepped forward slightly, as if shielding me from her temper. "He's asking the question," Nail said. Kais's gaze snapped to him. "You staying?" she demanded. "Of course," Nail said. Kiss looked back at me, jaw tight, the lullaby dying on her lips. "You're worried," she said. "Yes." "You think one of us will break?" "I think the situation will try to break us." Kais smiled without humor. "It always does." I held her gaze. "Now is the time," I said. "If you want out." She laughed once, sharp as glass. "Out!" she spat. "I'm sworn, that's the point." There was something almost holy in the way she said it. Not faith, not worship. Something harder. Revenge as duty. She stepped closer until her eyes were a breath away. "This is what we do," she said. "This is all we do." For a moment the room swayed. The storm outside thickened. The lullaby became a thread pulled too tight. I felt the dream beginning to resist us. Keith's blades settled back into her hair, as if the moment had passed. "Go," she said. "Go ask the others." Nail and I turned away. The tower blurred. The storm tore itself apart and reassembled around us, and we pushed on. Thonius's forest. The air smelled of old perfume and damp cloth. We stumbled into a forest of clothing racks that stretched in every direction, rails hung with coats and jackets and pantaloons, thousands of garments swaying gently as if a breeze moved through them. No trees, no sky, just fabric and emptiness. The temperature dropped as we moved. Cold that seemed to come from inside the place. "Carl," I called. No answer. We fought our way through hanging sleeves and stitched shadows until we reached a clearing. Thonius sat naked among rings of mirrors. as if he had peeled himself out of disguise and left the skins behind. He rose with controlled irritation, took a robe from nowhere and pulled it on with offended dignity. "This is intrusion," he said. His voice was clipped, elegant, cold. Then he saw my face. His expression changed. Not fear, not surprise. Discomfort. The kind a man feels when someone sees him without the mask. Nail grinned faintly, enjoying it. "He wants to ask you the question," Nail said. "You know, the question." Thonius tightened the robe, jaw set. "The answer is obvious," he said, forcing composure back into place. "I serve, I follow, I interrogate. That is the arrangement." I stepped closer, careful not to let the mirrors catch too much of me. Reflections felt dangerous tonight. "I had to ask," I said. "I know," Thonius replied. A pause. Then, with the smallest shift in tone, he moved from loyalty to work. "Special condition," he said. Not a question, a confirmation. "Yes," I said. Thonius's eyes narrowed slightly. "When we reach Eustace," he said, "we will need cover that survives scrutiny. Forgery is not enough if the wrong people have access to deep verification." I felt the dream tighten, as if the subject itself offended it. "You have an idea," I said. Thonius's mouth twitched. "I will," he said. "Give me a little time and I'll have something clever." Nail watched him a moment. "You're enjoying this," Nail said. Thonius didn't deny it. He turned slightly, letting the mirrors show different angles of his face, different possible Carls. "The question is answered," he said. "Now leave." The fabrics began to sway harder. Sleeves brushed my face. The perfume became suffocating. The dream was pushing us out. We let it. Zeph's shore. We emerged beneath two pale suns, setting over a foreshore that crunched underfoot. A foreshore? The ground wasn't sand, it was hands. Billions of left hands, flesh and blood, twitching in the twilight like a field of dying animals. Each fitted with a chrome bracket at the wrist, as if the universe had attempted to make them useful. Zeph Mathwin walked the shoreline, picking up hands one by one and testing them against the socket of his missing arm. None fit. He let them fall back into the pile and moved on, driven by the quiet certainty that the right one had to be here somewhere. He looked up as we approached, eyes soft and brown in dream form, a gentleness that waking Zeph rarely showed. "Zeph," I said. "I can't find it," he muttered. Can't. "Listen to me," I said. He turned sharply. "What?" he snapped. I started to ask the question. Zeph cut me off without mercy. "Yes," he said. "Whatever it is, yes." Then he turned away and continued sorting through the hands, obsessed with the impossible task of finding the right one. Nail stared across the shoreline and shook his head. "His dreams are worse than mine," he muttered. We didn't stay. Some dreams weren't meant to be understood. Some were just wounds replaying. Kara's dressing room. Noise hit us first. A carnival roar, distant but heavy. Brass voice trumpets, crowd chant, the stomp of feet on timber, the thump of drums, the smell of sweat and cheap alcohol and sawdust. We were in a dressing room behind the madness, harshly lit, mirrors ringed with bulbs. Carswell sat at the makeup table, white powder on her fingers as she painted her own face like a performer preparing to die beautifully. She was small-framed and tightly built, all tension and control, the kind of strength that didn't advertise itself. Her red hair was pulled back from a sharp, expressive face, freckles half lost beneath the powder. Even seated, she carried the stillness of someone used to crowds holding their breath for her. She looked up and smiled. "There you are," she said softly, as if we were late. She rose and came towards me without hesitation, close enough for me to smell the powder, the faint metallic tang of something sharper beneath it. Her hand touched my sleeve, then my cuff. Her eyes searched my face. "You were a handsome man," she said. Nail snorted quietly. Kara's expression shifted, a sudden awareness. "I'm dreaming," she said. "Yes," I replied. Her lips parted slightly. "This is the dream where you ask me," she said. "The question?" "Yes." She stepped back, shaking her head in almost amused disbelief. "We're starting tomorrow," she said. "Yes." "And it could end us," she said. "It could." She stared at me, then laughed, low and delighted, the way she laughed when fear had nowhere else to go. "Are you serious?" she said. "Of course I'm in." "Kara," I said, "if you want out." She waved it away like smoke. "The show goes on," she said. "It always does." Outside the dressing room, the crowd surged and roared like an ocean demanding blood. Kara glanced towards the door. "Don't keep them waiting," she said. The dream shifted again, sharp as a knife turn. The roar faded, the bulbs dimmed, the mirrors fogged. And I felt something else, a wrongness creeping in. Not Kara, not any of my people. Something behind the dream pressing close. Listening, watching. I tried to turn. My body would not move. I felt glass under bare feet. Shards. Broken. Reflective. Biting. I heard something heavy approaching, moving too quickly for its size, claws crunching on the glass like a predator enjoying the sound. A breath behind me. Hot, wet, a snort, my muscles locked. I tried to summon force, to push, to cut. Nothing responded. The dream held me like a pinned insect. The thing behind me growled softly, amused. Then a voice, not spoken aloud, but pressed directly into the inside of my skull. Not one of mine. A stranger's touch. A psyker's fingerprint. It said my name without words. And in that moment, I understood the true purpose of this night. The question was not for my team. The question was for me. How far would I go, knowing I was no longer beyond reach? How much of myself would I risk exposing, just to keep my team with me? The glass shifted underfoot. The predator moved closer. I forced a single thought through the paralysis. Enough. The dream shattered. The Arethusa's translation out of the warp back to real space felt like a punch through the gut of the universe. Systems screamed and settled. Gravity adjusted. A distant clatter ran through the ship as old repairs flexed and remembered their weaknesses. I came back into the chair with a jolt of bitter awareness, senses returning in their usual narrow channels. Photoreceptors, status overlays, lumen density, heat maps. A body that was not a body. I hated it, I cherished it, I endured it. Outside, the Eustace system spread cold and busy, a web of traffic lanes and orbital noise. We slid into the traffic stream like flotsam caught by a river. Automated traffic craft locked onto us and guided our descent. Dock registries scanned the hull. Fees were deducted. Identifiers verified and logged. We became one more shabby tramp in a sea of vessels, our plating scarred age, our transponder codes dull enough to be ignored. Eustace Majoris rolled beneath us, stained and slow. Above it, the anchor harbors hung like colossal brass skeletons, scaffolds thick with thousands upon thousands of ships. Merchantmen, haulers, Munitorum freighters, mission vessels with gilded spines and ecclesiarchal icons that glimmered even in vacuum light. Warships lurked at distance in their own pens, black and patient, like predators pretending not to watch the herd. Near space bustled with shuttles and lighters and derricks and lift craft hauling goods down to the surface cities. Nobody looked at us twice. That was the point. We took a vacant berth. We paid a month in advance. We became invisible. On the third deck companionway, Unverth fussed over his charts and his dignity, proud as a child playing at rogue trader. He was usually a man of routines and ledgers, not courage, which was why this performance mattered so much to him. I left him to his fantasies. I had more urgent matters. I had touched my people in the night, and something had touched back. Thonius's plan. Carl Thonius came to me early before the ship settled fully into its docking rhythm. He was dressed as himself. Elegant coat, clean gloves, the faint scent of expensive cologne attempting to overpower the reality of rust and recycled air. His eyes were bright in the way they became when he believed he was about to win. "Sir," he said. The chairvox delivered the only earthly voice I had, flat and metallic. "Speak." Thonius didn't flinch. He never did. He had learned long ago to treat the chair's lack of inflection as a test, not an insult. "We need cover that will survive inspection," he said. "Not street-level forgery, not paper tricks." "We will be investigated," I replied. "Exactly," Thonius said. "And I believe our enemies will have access to deep informium checks. Anything fake will be found if someone digs hard enough." The chair angled slightly as I regarded him. "You have a solution," I said. Thonius smiled. That insufferably pleased smile he wore when he was about to be useful. "A solution," he said. "Yes. A daring one." He explained it in tight steps, timings, codes, access points, a plan built like a machine, not to forge our identities, to force the system itself to validate them, to take the very thing that could expose us and turn it into a shield. You want the Informium to do our work, I said. In a manner of speaking, Thonius replied. I considered it. The risk, the arrogance, the beauty of it. I hated how much I liked it. There are dangers, I said. Of course, Thonius agreed. But we need to operate freely. We have one advantage left. They believe we are dead. If we lose that, we lose everything. He hesitated, then added something else, quieter. And, sir, I would like to run the operation myself. The chair's vox did not change. Why? Thonius' fingers moved to a garnet ring on his pinky, a nervous habit he despised in himself. 3 reasons, he said. First, it was my idea. Second, it plays to my strengths. Third, he stopped. He chose his words carefully. Physically, he said, you stand out. Your form is known. If you are seen, the game ends immediately. The words stung because they were true. I had been thinking the same thing since we began our return. Special condition did not mean I was less in control. It meant I would have to lead without being visible. It meant my people would take the physical risks while I watched, listened, and struck only when I had to. A new kind of helplessness. A new kind of trust. Outside the viewport, the orbital docks glittered like a carnival of steel. Inside, my band moved through corridors and routines, unaware of how close the night had brought us to something we did not yet understand. The chair rotated a fraction. Proceed, I said. The vox made the word sound like a stamp on paper. Thonius nodded once, satisfied. As he turned to leave, I felt it again, that faint, static pressure at the edge of my awareness. Not a premonition, not fatigue, a presence far away, pressing its face against the glass. Listening, waiting. And somewhere deep in myself, where dreams had left their cuts, a single thought rose cold and simple. The question has been asked.